During the later years of World War II, German armored forces encountered a deadly surprise they had never fully prepared for. The powerful American 90 gun. German tank crews were accustomed to facing the 75 guns mounted on Sherman tanks and believed they understood American capabilities. However, hidden across ridgelines and forest edges, a new weapon began destroying German armor from astonishing distances. At ranges approaching 3,000 yards, German tank commanders suddenly found themselves under fire from guns they could neither see nor accurately return fire against. The first impacts often came without warning, a flash on the horizon followed by a devastating penetration through thick armor plates. These long-distance kills shocked even veteran panzer crews who had fought across Eastern and Western Europe. Intelligence reports soon described an American gun capable of defeating heavy armor at ranges previously thought safe. Unlike close-range anti-tank ambushes, these engagements happened before German tanks even realized they were being targeted. The weapon responsible was often mounted on tank destroyers or heavy anti-aircraft platforms, adapted for ground combat. Carefully concealed positions allowed American gunners to strike first and relocate before the Germans could respond. The sudden appearance of this weapon marked a turning point in armored engagements on the Western Front. German tactical doctrine emphasized aggressive movement and close-range engagements, but the new American gun forced a reconsideration of battlefield assumptions. For the first time, German tank crews understood that distance no longer guaranteed safety. The American 90 gun was originally designed as a heavy anti-aircraft weapon intended to counter high-altitude bombers. Engineers sought a weapon capable of firing heavy shells at extreme altitudes with remarkable accuracy. The resulting weapon proved powerful enough to destroy both aircraft and armored vehicles. As Allied forces prepared for the invasion of Europe, American planners realized that German heavy tanks such as the Tiger and Panther required stronger anti-tank weapons than existing designs. Testing showed that the 90 gun possessed excellent armor penetration capabilities at long range. Unlike earlier guns that required close engagement distances, the 90 maintained lethal energy even beyond 2 miles. American engineers adapted the weapon for ground combat, mounting it on tank destroyers and eventually on heavy tanks. Improved optics and fire control systems allowed American crews to aim precisely at distant targets. High-velocity, armor-piercing rounds could penetrate thick armor plates that previously resisted American shells. The gun's long barrel provided superior muzzle velocity, allowing flatter trajectories and improved accuracy. German artillerists underestimated the speed with which the Americans could field such weapons. By late 1944, the 90 gun had begun appearing across the Western Front in increasing numbers. Crews trained extensively in long-range gunnery, taking advantage of open terrain whenever possible. The gun's performance quickly earned respect among Allied tankers and fear among German armored units. One of the most effective tactics used by American forces was concealment. Instead of advancing openly, 90 gun crews often positioned themselves on reverse slopes, wooded hills, or concealed ridges. From these hidden positions they could observe German movements while remaining difficult to detect. Camouflage nets, natural vegetation, and careful positioning made the guns nearly invisible from the front. German tank crews scanning the horizon often saw nothing before shells began striking around them. Observation teams identified targets and relayed coordinates to gunners waiting silently behind cover. The first shot frequently hit before German crews understood where the attack originated. At 3,000 yards, muzzle flashes were difficult to identify, especially under poor visibility conditions. Even when German tanks attempted to return fire, their guns lacked the accuracy needed at such long distances. This gave American crews a decisive advantage in the opening moments of engagement. Some units fired only a few rounds before relocating to avoid counter-battery fire. Mobility combined with concealment made the guns extremely difficult to neutralize. German commanders often described these engagements as fighting an invisible enemy. Reports spoke of tanks destroyed in open fields with no visible attacker. The psychological effect of unseen long-range fire added to the weapon's battlefield impact. Crews learned to move cautiously, knowing death could come from beyond their sight. The first encounters between German armored units and American 90 guns often ended in confusion and loss.
German tank crews advancing through open countryside suddenly found vehicles disabled by hits from extreme distances. Initial reports sometimes blamed artillery or aircraft, as tankers could not immediately identify the source.
Only later did intelligence officers determine that the damage came from high-velocity anti-tank rounds. Survivors described shells striking with tremendous force, often penetrating armor and exploding inside the vehicle. Fires and ammunition detonations frequently followed, destroying tanks beyond repair. Commanders struggled to identify safe routes of advance when enemy guns could reach so far. Even reconnaissance units risked destruction before completing their missions. Some German formations halted entirely after suffering unexpected losses. The realization that American guns could strike from such distances forced new caution. Tank crews began using terrain more carefully, avoiding open ground whenever possible. Despite these adjustments, long-range ambushes continued to inflict damage. German attempts to locate the guns often failed due to American mobility and concealment. The sudden appearance of the 90 gun created a sense of vulnerability among crews who previously trusted their armor. Confidence in the protection offered by heavy tanks began to erode. German tank design emphasized heavy armor as protection against enemy guns. Vehicles such as the Panther and Tiger were built to survive hits from typical Allied weapons. Against most guns, this armor proved effective at medium and long ranges. However, the American 90 gun challenged these assumptions. High-velocity rounds could penetrate frontal armor under favorable conditions. Even when armor resisted penetration, impacts could damage internal components or injure crews. The advantage of thick armor diminished as engagement distances increased. German tanks could not rely solely on protection when facing powerful guns with accurate optics. Some crews added extra armor plates or track links to increase protection, but these measures offered limited improvement. Weight increases also reduced mobility, creating new vulnerabilities. American gunners aimed carefully at weak points, such as turret rings and lower hull plates. Precision fire allowed them to exploit even small vulnerabilities. The balance between armor and firepower began shifting in favor of the Americans. German engineers attempted improvements, but production limitations prevented widespread upgrades. By late 1944, the battlefield increasingly favored weapons capable of long-range engagement. The 90 gun represented this new reality. German armor remained formidable, but no longer invulnerable. American doctrine emphasized the use of specialized tank destroyers equipped with powerful guns. These units were trained to respond quickly to enemy armored breakthroughs. Equipped with 90 guns, guns before they reached Allied lines. Crews practiced rapid deployment and coordinated fire. Unlike tanks intended for breakthrough operations, tank destroyers focused on defensive positioning and ambush tactics. The long range of the 90 gun fit perfectly into this doctrine. Units often deployed along likely avenues of enemy advance. Observation posts provided early warning of approaching armor. Once targets appeared, gunners opened fire from prepared positions. Concentrated fire could halt even large armored formations. After firing, vehicles sometimes repositioned to avoid detection. This flexibility allowed relatively small units to control large areas of terrain. German commanders frequently underestimated tank destroyer strength until losses mounted. The doctrine proved especially effective during defensive operations in France and Germany. Tank destroyers became a critical component of Allied anti-tank defenses. The success of these units demonstrated the value of long-range anti-armor weapons. Accuracy at long range depended heavily on high-quality optics and trained crews. American gun sights allowed precise aiming even at extreme distances. Range estimation techniques improved firing accuracy. Crews practiced identifying targets and calculating firing solutions quickly. Spotters assisted gunners by observing shell impacts and correcting aim. Communication between crew members ensured rapid adjustments. Weather conditions affected visibility and required careful consideration. Clear days offered ideal conditions for long-range fire. Even slight errors in range estimation could cause shells to miss by large distances. Training minimized these errors. Repeated practice built confidence. In long-range engagements, German optics were also excellent, but American crews often fired first due to concealed positions. The ability to hit targets at 3,000 yards gave American forces a major tactical advantage. German tank crews struggled to match this accuracy at similar distances. Long-range gunnery became a defining feature of the 90 gun's reputation. The psychological effect of unseen long-range fire was profound. Tank crews often felt exposed, even when they believed themselves safe. The knowledge that enemy guns could strike from miles away created constant tension. Crews remained alert for distant flashes or suspicious terrain features. False alarms became common as nerves tightened. Commanders reported declining confidence among inexperienced crews. Even veteran tankers found the threat unsettling. The inability to see the enemy increased feelings of helplessness. Some crews hesitated before advancing into open terrain. Delays slowed German operations and disrupted coordination. American forces benefited from the hesitation created by long-range fire. Morale played a significant role in armored warfare. Weapons that inspired fear could influence battles beyond their physical effects. The 90 gun became one such weapon. German reports increasingly mentioned powerful American anti-tank guns capable of extreme range. The reputation of the weapon spread quickly. Fear often traveled faster than facts. Several battles on the Western Front demonstrated the effectiveness of the 90 gun. In open terrain, American units achieved impressive long-range kills. German tanks advancing across fields often became easy targets. Defensive lines supported by 90 guns proved difficult to penetrate. Concentrated fire could destroy multiple tanks within minutes. Some engagements ended before German units reached effective firing range. American commanders recognized the value of long-range defense. Terrain selection became a key factor in planning operations. Elevated positions allowed maximum range and visibility. German forces learned to avoid predictable routes. Despite this adaptation, losses continued. The combination of surprise and range made the guns difficult to counter. Each successful engagement reinforced the weapon's reputation. The 90 gun became synonymous with long-range and tank power. German forces attempted several countermeasures against long-range American guns. Smoke screens provided temporary concealment during advances. Artillery bombardments targeted suspected gun positions. Reconnaissance units searched for concealed weapons. Engineers constructed obstacles to channel enemy movement. Despite these efforts, American crews often avoided detection. Mobility allowed rapid relocation after firing. Counter-battery fire rarely destroyed many guns. German commanders struggled to find reliable solutions. Some units advanced only at night to reduce exposure. Limited visibility reduced American accuracy, but slowed operations. The balance remained difficult for German forces. The 90 gun continued to pose a serious threat. The effectiveness of the 90 gun depended heavily on its ammunition. Armor-piercing rounds delivered tremendous kinetic energy. Some shells used hardened penetrators to improve performance. High-explosive rounds allowed engagement of softer targets. Ammunition versatility increased tactical flexibility. Crews selected rounds based on target type and range. Armor-piercing shells remained the most feared by German tankers. Penetrations often caused catastrophic internal damage. Explosions ignited fuel and ammunition. Survivors rarely escaped uninjured. The destructive power of the shells contributed to the gun's reputation. German armor offered limited protection against direct hits. The results of full strikes were often dramatic and final. Training played a major role in the success of American gunners. Crews practiced target identification and range estimation extensively. Live fire exercises simulated battlefield conditions. Instructors emphasized discipline and coordination. Well-trained crews could operate efficiently under pressure. Experience improved performance further. Veteran units achieved remarkable accuracy. Training programs produced a steady supply of skilled gunners. Consistent standards ensured reliable performance. The effectiveness of the weapon depended on the men operating it. Skilled crews turned powerful guns into decisive battlefield tools. By late 1944 and early 1945, the balance of armored warfare shifted noticeably. German forces increasingly fought defensive battles. Allied firepower continued growing. The 90 gun symbolized this change. German technological advantages began disappearing. Industrial production favored the Allies. New American weapons reached the front in large numbers. German units struggled to replace losses. Long-range engagements favored Allied forces. The battlefield environment became increasingly dangerous for German armor. The 90 gun contributed significantly to this transformation. After the war, the 90 gun remained influential in tank development. Lessons learned shaped future weapons. Designers emphasized high velocity and long-range accuracy. The concept of engaging enemies at extreme range became standard practice. Later tanks incorporated similar or larger guns. The success of the 90 demonstrated the importance of firepower. Military planners studied wartime experiences carefully. The weapon became part of armored warfare history. Its reputation endured long after the war ended. In the end, the American 90 gun represented a threat the Germans never fully anticipated. Its combination of power, accuracy, and concealment made it exceptionally dangerous. German tank crews faced an enemy capable of striking from beyond visible range. The weapon forced changes in tactics and planning. Even the strongest armor could not guarantee survival. The long-range kills achieved by American gunners became legendary. The 90 gun demonstrated how technology and tactics could reshape warfare. From hidden positions across European battlefields, these guns struck with deadly precision. Tanks that once dominated battlefields suddenly found themselves vulnerable. The hidden American 90 gun became one of the most feared anti-tank weapons of World War II.